Aloha everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to another week of live Q&A here at Trauma Recovery University. I'm your host, Athena Moberg, and are you in the right place? And who am I? This is a channel for adult survivors of childhood abuse, specifically childhood sexual abuse. So if that is you, then you're in the right place. My name is Athena Moberg, and I am your host for live Q&A every single week, every Monday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, and I answer your questions that you send in either via email or Twitter or Facebook or whichever other way you happen to find me. A lot of times you'll go to my website and message me there on my website, and that's one of the ones I'm going to read today. I received an email from someone who went to my website and left a message. So today's topic, we show up here every week with a different topic, and we all hang out together for about an hour, hour and a half, usually closer to an hour and a half. There's no need for you to interact. There's no need for you to go on the Twitter stream using the hashtag No More Shame. There's no need for you to be in the YouTube chat box unless you want to. You can get just as much out of this video by listening to everybody else's questions. And this is a place for you to heal. This is a safe space for you to feel supported. That is the goal of this channel, is for you to feel fully supported and equipped to heal from complex trauma during childhood. And this is a healthy place to do it. So I'm issuing a trigger warning right now. So if you have experienced childhood abuse of any kind, this conversation could be very triggering for you. We will be discussing childhood abuse, sometimes childhood sexual abuse, sometimes the questions are quite graphic, sometimes there is discussion of suicide, and there are a whole bunch of hotlines that are being tweeted out right now using the hashtag No More Shame, different hotlines that you can reach depending on what country you're in. There are over 180 countries of just subscribers that are here. So maybe not live. There are only a couple dozen of you. There are only 24 of you here right now on the YouTube app. And there are just as many of you, if not more, over on Twitter using the hashtag No More Shame. But if you've experienced childhood abuse of any kind, specifically childhood sexual abuse, our discussions may be traumatizing for you, and they may remind you of things, and you may have some sort of flashbacks, emotional flashbacks, any type of post-traumatic stress response. So if you are triggered, this is a place to receive and give support. So please step away from the video and the YouTube chat box or the Twitter feed using the hashtag No More Shame. Step away if you're triggered and get the help you deserve. You are worth it. Please reach out to our friends over at RAINN, the Rape, Abuse, Incest National Network. You can reach them on the telephone in the United States and I believe Canada as well by dialing 1-800-656-HOPE. Or you can reach them on their 24/7 live chat feature on their website. And you go into like a virtual waiting room and then you wait for someone. And that is at rainn.org. So if you are located in the UK, it's 2 o'clock in the morning there, and a lot of you set your alarms for 2 a.m. just so you can show up and hang out and just have interaction with other people who have lived through what you've lived through. And I just salute you and just my hat is off to you. I'm just so grateful for you. Your dedication and your communication and your support and your love for one another is what makes this YouTube channel the most incredible place I've ever really experienced. It's so supportive here, and there's a lot of that same type of support going on in our Facebook private secret groups as well. If you would like 24/7, 365 support that is peer-led. So go to the About section of our YouTube channel if you're interested in that. There is kind of a delay. Sometimes you don't get welcomed in for a week or a month, depending on how much time I can dedicate to vetting people and welcoming everybody in. Last week's episode, Harry, if you could pop up a YouTube card for last week's episode, it's all about food issues. There's a whole subset of our community. There are dozens of you. I don't want to say 100, but there's close to 100 that are all adult survivors of childhood abuse or childhood sexual abuse, some sort of childhood abuse, and you're dealing with food issues. And you're not alone. there are dozens of you that have emailed me. I mean, I'm sure there are thousands and millions out there in the world, but like, you know, just here in our community, there are dozens of you that have emailed me. So that's probably only about a fourth of the people who actually are dealing with the same issues that we're dealing with, but they just haven't had the time to reach out, or they just don't have the emotional energy to be dealing with stuff like that right now. So if that is you, you're not alone, and I'm so happy you're here. So every week we show up here and we have a different topic. And this week's topic, if you've read in the description section of this video below, this week's topic is the cumulative nature of trauma. And our trauma response, depending on what's going on in our life, and why sometimes the small things feel like big things, and why big things sometimes can feel like normal things to us, or small things, like things that other people consider to be small things, can be very triggering for us, because it's almost like we're always in this state of hypervigilance, waiting for the other shoe to drop. And then the things that are the big things that are life crisis type things, we're very calm, and we're like, we know how to navigate these waters, because we spent so many years in our life during our childhood in survival mode, navigating from crisis to crisis to crisis, from landmine to landmine to landmine. So that's tonight's topic. I have a great email that was sent in by one of you guys, and I'm just so grateful for your communication and for your ongoing support of this channel. I know I'm going to be receiving comments pretty soon about the background. It looks like I'm in a prison cell right now. I moved, I relocated, and last week, I got some messages noticing that there wasn't the same types of decorations in the background. It's because I was sitting in a corner because the whole room was empty. So now I'm in a new place, and I will not pan the camera and show you all the boxes that I'm surrounded by, but there are stacks and stacks of boxes and Rubbermaid bins of all of our belongings that we're going through and getting rid of and keeping, and it's stacked up above my head right now. So like higher than this, like you can't even see my hands. They're like higher than my hands. And that's how high the boxes and the things are. And I just would not want to stress you out. There are many of us that have that live with some OCD, and it would probably make you hyperventilate, because I get close to hyperventilating if I look at the magnitude of stacks of things that I need to be going through and navigating through in the next few weeks. So that's why it looks like I'm in a prison cell. This is a cinder block wall. I have some nice natural light coming in from this way. I have some other light coming this way. I might be recording somewhere different in this house next week with a little bit better lighting. And because I'm noticing that there's another room in the house that has a lot better natural lighting, but I mean, it's my first full day here. So I'm just not, I haven't figured it out yet. So next week might be something different, but I know you guys ask me that kind of stuff all the time. So I might start, I'm thinking about doing some You Nows and getting a Patreon sort of thing going on, kind of like Katie Morton, Kenyans in the house. Yeah, I'm thinking about doing that, like just hanging out with you guys a little bit more often, and sort of answering your questions and just spending more time with you, because I really enjoy it. I was talking with a colleague this morning, a friend of mine, and I don't have any telephone service here at this house, and so I was out and about, and I drove to the beach, and I ended up in the water while I was on FaceTime. And it was pretty hilarious, because I didn't mean to be in the water. I was just like kind of walking along the sand, and which I have not done. I want to say in years. It might be years. Even though I live here on an island, I just have been. I'm in recovery like you guys. You know, I'm healing in public right alongside you guys. So anyway, I hadn't done that sort of mental health morning in a really long time, and it felt really good to do that. So I think I want to spend some time with you guys, and if that's something you're interested in, then you can email me. In the subject line, you could put mental health morning, or put beach, or ocean, or something like that in the subject line of an email, and you can email me at nomoreshameproject@gmail.com. nomoreshameproject@gmail.com. And I haven't responded to all of your food issue emails yet because there are dozens of them, and I want to respond with the amount of compassion and me being fully present as I can possibly give you, as much as you deserve. And since I have been moving this whole past week, I have not been on my computer since pretty much last week when you and I hung out here last Monday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. So here I am, and that's about it for all of my this is what's going on. I want to jump in and answer some of your questions. So I'm just going to check over here and see if you guys have any questions that that you want answered right now. And I just am going to get a drink of water. Hold on one second. Shout out to Christy Q, who may be my cute little koozie here. She is on Etsy if you want to find her, and she does these custom little sweaters for your glasses. Awesome. And little homemade flowers and stuff. Anyway, her Etsy shop is Love Jungle Crochet, and anyway, handmade, amazing. And she sends it to you in the cutest little box, and she makes jewelry also. So I'm just going to check and see if y'all have any questions over here. Let's see. Let's see here. There is reverb on the live stream. Oh no. You know what? I couldn't find my earbuds. That might be what it is, you guys. No questions, because you all are just trying to deal with the audio issues. Oh no. Okay, I'm so sorry. I need to find my earbuds or my headphones. Oh, I see my headphones. Oh, I want to say a very special welcome to Dark Eyes. It is Dark Eyes' first time here. Everybody, I just hope that you will give them a very, 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 very warm welcome. I'm so excited that you're here with us. I'm normally a little bit more organized. I'm trying to, I want to say, I think, I don't have my glasses on, but I think I see some headphones over there. So if the audio gets really super bad, please alert either Heather Tuba on the Twitter stream or Surviving My Past, Matt, in the YouTube chat box, and then they will let me know, and then I will just have to step away or something and go try to find some headphones for a minute. But otherwise, I'm just gonna keep going. Thank you for being here, you guys. Welcome. I'm going to go ahead and share an email that you all sent in. And a very special thank you to Maggie for doing a whole bunch of research. Maggie and I both did some research this week on the cumulative nature of trauma, one of my most favorite topics, which I know I say that a lot. But I'm going to do a really cool screen share from an email from one of you guys from my website. And I love getting your SpeakPipe messages from my website, and I love getting your emails from my website, and just emails anyway. So here we go, you guys. Subject, thank you. Dear Athena, your website and YouTube channel have been such a blessing from God. I was hopeless and suicidal before I found your videos. You all, I just want to pause for a second before I read on in this email. I swear that I could have written every single word of this email to Bobby Parrish and Rachel Thompson when I first found them during that first week of sex abuse chat in January of 2014. I am telling you, I was just at my wit's end. I was having kind of a breakdown. So I know that many of us can relate to this particular email, and if you can relate, then let me know. Hey, Athena, I can relate. Send me a message on Twitter or tweet me or put a comment down below or in the chat box and let me know if you can relate. Here we go. Your website and your YouTube channel have been such a blessing from God. I was hopeless and suicidal before I found your videos. I want to thank you for the life-saving work you're doing, and I also want to ask a question. Why do the little things in life feel like big things? And why do I tend to shine when it comes to what others would call big challenges in life? It seems like I can handle crises better than I can handle small daily tasks. It is so odd. Just when I think I am healing and doing real good, something small will happen and I will spin out of control back into the place I was in before, which is feeling hopeless, helpless, overwhelmed, and wishing I could just go to sleep and never wake up. I feel so frustrated with myself and I just want to be done already. How long is this healing? How long will this healing journey take? I feel like I get glimpses of a healthier life with healthier relationships, and then whammo, the small things in life like bills, school, homework, friendships, church, grocery shopping, bank deposits, etc. It all feels like a pile of never-ending huge obstacles that trigger me into a place of overwhelm. So sorry to ramble and drone on. I know you are busy with life and work, and you are also healing. I just wanted to thank you so much. You really are such a blessing in my life. Your love shines through when I am listening to you speak. Bless you, Athena. And you guys, oh my goodness. Okay, first of all of your guys' emails and messages are like, they keep me going. They really do. Because I'm healing right alongside you guys. Yes, I have private clients. Yes, I coach other people. Yes, I've been studying trauma and trying to figure out all this stuff for 17 years. But none of us ever arrive. So thank you to the person who emailed me that message, which I already responded to, and I hope you got my email back because it was like a really long time ago. So sorry for the delay, by the way. But I just want to touch on a couple of things in the email. You mentioned small things like homework and bills and school and church and grocery shopping and all kinds of, you mentioned all these little things in air quotes. And I just want to let you know, like, there are so many of us that when we were children and we were supposed to be being taught how to have an allowance and to save and to do chores and be rewarded and how to eat healthy and how to brush our teeth and how to drive a car, a manual transmission or even automatic, or, you know, during our childhood, you know, from infancy all the way till, you know, we're 17, 18 years old, many children and other people that I know, they were being taught all of those things. They had loving and kind parents who played board games with them at the dinner table, and moms that taught their daughters how to cook, and nanas and aunties that taught the little girls how to sew, and you know, papas and grandpas that taught little boys how to go fishing and how to rake leaves or how to fix a car or how to use a hammer or a screwdriver or just little things like, you know, little kids that like to play in sandboxes and or make mud pies or like this morning I mentioned to you guys that I went on, I had a little bit of a mental health morning. For about 30 solid minutes I was at the beach and I was looking at people and I saw this little boy in the ocean playing, just carefree with his mom. And, you know, many of us didn't have that. And if we did, it was few and far between, and then the other times that are more dominant in our memories are times that were very traumatic or abusive. I know many people in our community did not have loving caregivers, loving families of origin that taught them manners and, you know, say please and thank you, and this is how you wash the dishes, and this is how you do your laundry, and this is how you grow up and be healthy and have good habits, and this is how you go grocery shopping, and let me sit down and help you with your homework. And this is how you have conflict resolution. If you have one of your besties or one of your friends, if you guys have a disagreement, this is how you can handle that and, you know, still maintain your friendships. Or this is how you save money and put money aside for big purchases. And, you know, those are not things that many of us had. Many of us didn't have that type of role model or mentorship. And so we spent a lot of our time in survival mode, in managing the personalities that were in our family of origin or in the home that we were growing up in. So perhaps we walked on eggshells waiting for so-and-so to come home because we knew everything needed to be perfect when they got home, and the vacuum cleaner marks had to be just perfect on the floor, or the dishes all had to be perfect, or everything had to be perfect, otherwise there would be yelling and screaming. Or perhaps, perhaps when you were growing up, you grew up in an environment where there was a lot of alcohol, and so when people would come home, they start drinking alcohol, and then things would get progressively worse as the night went on. And sometimes it would end in calling the police, or people throwing things, or yelling and screaming, or just, you know, a lot of just indescribable, horrible things happen. And so here we are, flash forward 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and doing little things like this person mentioned in their email. Those are not little things to us because those were not taught to us when we were younger. We didn't get a grasp on those types of things when we were younger because we were busy learning how to survive. We were busy learning how to navigate the waters of, let's not make so-and-so angry. Let's make sure this is perfect. Let's make sure that I act perfectly, or I'm just silent enough, or I am nice enough, or I placate this person over here and I make sure that they're happy, or I do this chore over here, or I rake the leaves over there, or I want to make sure that everything in my entire environment, I just want to make sure it's all perfect so that I don't get in trouble, so that life could be just a little bit better, because I must be the problem. It must be my fault. It's all under my control. Because again, remember, we talk about this a lot on this channel. When you're a child and something bad happens in your environment, you don't know how to distinguish between something bad happened over there and I am bad. You are your environment. You are the center of the world when you're a child. It's just childlike thinking. It's what we have. It's what our brains know. It's our physiological makeup. So the quote unquote, air quotes, right? The air quotes, little things that are mentioned in this email today that sparked this topic of the cumulative nature of trauma are not necessarily little things to an adult who never learned them. If something is, in air quotes, little, like a little thing, it's because it's something that it comes naturally, like breathing, something that you've been doing for years and years and years, and it just seems like something so small. Like my husband, Jim, for instance, he doesn't mind at all going to the market and going shopping and going and doing things, or doing laundry or doing dishes. Like, he doesn't mind doing little chores and little chores, because to him, it's something totally little, because his life was spent different. Like, the big things in life for him that are fun are like recreating and going to the beach and playing golf and playing tennis and going on a trip and traveling and spending time with family. And so doing the little things in life for him, in air quotes, little things, really are little things, because when he was growing up, he was taught how to do a lot of the little things. So in his developmental years, he was gaining a whole bunch of tools on how to navigate through life, and he wasn't fighting for his life. And he wasn't fighting to survive. He wasn't fighting to navigate the waters of trauma and abuse and violence, or drugs, or alcohol, or exploitation, or manipulation. He wasn't navigating the waters of all of that. He was raised in an environment where his family was overall very loving and very kind. And I know that that's kind of foreign to a lot of us. And yeah, I mean, I've seen it with my own two eyes. I've met his entire family, like aunts, uncles, brothers, cousins, his sister. Like, I've met his parents. I mean, I've met them all, and everybody pretty much gets along, and they like each other, and they're they're pretty understanding. And I mean, yeah, they have stuff. Everybody has stuff, right? We all have stuff. But their stuff in my husband's family, for instance, is not the same stuff that I have in my family. There aren't smear campaigns going on 24/7 to try to see who can get so-and-so looking as horrible as possible. There weren't any, there weren't drug houses. There weren't, people in jail for beating up their wife or their mom or whatever. Like there wasn't that kind of stuff going on. So many of us did deal with stuff like that, and it's just difficult to even understand what it would be like to be fully equipped to know when you're from your very, very, very young child how to brush your teeth and floss and take time in the shower and take time in the bath, like as long as you need, because you're learning how to develop daily hygiene habits and learn how to do the laundry, and this is how you load the dishwasher, and this is how you mow the lawn, and this is how you water the flowers, and this is how you cook, and rather than spending all your time trying to survive. So that is part one to the answer to the email. And then I have a whole bunch of other research that I want to share with you guys regarding the cumulative nature of trauma. But first, I want to go see if you guys have any questions that I can answer for you really quick. So let me see if you've sent any in. Here we go. Oh, good, you can hear me now. I'm so glad. Rebecca Rose says she can absolutely relate. Joey says, I'm so glad you can relate, Rebecca. It's nice to know that we're all not alone, right? Joey says, right now, the little things in life are overwhelming to the point where it is stressing me out so bad. Bills, daily hygiene, getting out of bed, etc. I just want to go to sleep. Oh, Joey, I'm so sorry. I know exactly how you feel. And I normally am not the type of person that will say, I know exactly how you feel, because it's kind of like an insensitive thing to say. But I feel like I can say I know exactly how you feel because I have felt all of those exact same things. And I just promise you there's hope. I promise you it gets better as we keep plowing on ahead and not giving up and just devoting ourselves to learning healthy habits and maintaining healthy boundaries, establishing and maintaining healthy boundaries, and surrounding ourselves with safe and healthy people. I promise it gets better. I promise, I promise, I promise. Otherwise, I would not even be alive right now. I would have completed my suicide attempts. You guys know this already. So I promise, Joey, it gets better. And I hope that doesn't sound like a platitude, because it is not my intent for that to sound like a platitude. I hope you know how sincere I am and how much love that I have for you. Thank you for commenting and for being here. Jamie Machine says, yes, yes. I always felt quite left out of all of that. My best friend's mom used to take me on trips, I think because she knew I didn't get any of that stuff at home. Yeah, I'm so happy, Janie, that you had someone. Oh my gosh, you had someone that cared about you. I'm so sorry that you didn't have any of that at home, Janie. But I am really, really, really glad that your friend's mom took you on trips, because everybody deserves that kind of stuff. Everybody needs to have a little bit of a respite, a little bit of a reprieve from all of the trauma. Nobody can live through so much trauma and get out of survival mode and actually get into living without someone taking an interest in us and just sharing some hope with us. So that's why we're all here, right? But I'm so glad that you had that, Janie, and I'm so happy you're here with us to tell everybody that there's hope. Allison McGarity says, I realized as a kid that I could never satisfy my dad. If I did everything perfect, then I got beat for not doing it faster. Oh my gosh. Oh, I need to look at you in the face right now, Allison, before I move on. Oh my goodness. Allison, seriously, I relate to everything that you just said on such a big, big, big level. Anybody else out there? Anybody else relate? So no matter what, it's never perfect enough, right? No matter what, it's not perfect. And if it is perfect, there's another reason to get in trouble. It's almost like, why even try? So like, okay, so for me, I would come home from school and my chores were like this, that. I had to polish all the individual leaves of all the plants in the house. and like with this plant leaf spray, and just such care was given to these plants. I was jealous of the plants. Anybody else? Like, I was jealous of the plants. The plants, my mom was so into the plants. I mean, she loved those plants. I mean, she took such good care of them, and she made sure that I polished every leaf. And I mean, oh my goodness gracious. So I would polish all the leaves, and I had to all these different chores. Allison, I would do the vacuuming, and I would make sure right when I got home from school, I'm like, I'm gonna get it all done. And then that way I can be all completely done. And then I can be like, I was already done early, yay. And like, then maybe I can go do something fun, or maybe I can ride my horse, or maybe I can go to the school and, you know, hang out at the football field or the track, because I live near the school. And that was never the case. It never worked out. Oh my gosh. If I vacuumed too early, which I was told, do your chores right when you get home. So if I vacuumed too early, then my stepsisters or even I or anyone would walk, and they would walk and the vacuum marks wouldn't be there as prominently as if you had just vacuumed, because no one had stepped on it after you just vacuumed, right? And so I had to literally wait and plan and time and count that, like, the minutes or the hours to, like, right before, but not too late. I had to make sure I vacuumed at just the right time, so that when they came home, the vacuum marks were still there, so they could tell I vacuumed, because they wouldn't believe me if I told them I did. And then, oh my gosh, but if I was vacuuming when they got home, I would get the crap beat out of me, because it's like, you were supposed to do your chores right when you got home. Why did you wait? Where were you? And it's like, oh my gosh, but I was home, but you know. So anyhow, yeah, it's never perfect. Even if it's perfect, it's never perfect enough. Like, there's always a reason to get in trouble. So I relate, Allison McGarity. I relate, holy moly. Thank you for sharing, Allison. Simi says, I just can't seem to stop blaming myself for things that I know are not my fault. Thoughts? Yeah, Simi, this is a part of our grooming. Harriet, let's see here. Harriet, if you could pop up a YouTube card on the grooming video, grooming and child abuse, and gaslighting, please, the gaslighting video as well. Simi, this is part of your grooming. You were groomed from a very young age, or at least I'm not going to pretend that I know your whole situation, even though I know a lot of the details. But the reason we survivors take on all the blame for everything is because we were likely surrounded by adults who told us we were the designated adult, or they were not fully responsible. They didn't take responsibility for their actions, and they always blamed us for things. And like, well, why didn't you do this? Or if someone did something wrong or acted in a certain way and you actually got the courage to ask them about it, they would point fingers in every direction. They are not responsibility takers. Abusers by nature are not responsibility takers. And enablers, people who enable, not responsibility takers. Oh my gosh, not. They blame, shame, blame. They point the finger in 12 different directions. And so what happens is, in your child's mind, you want to make everything better and everything good. So you realize that no one's taking responsibility for anything. So you're like, I can fix it. Because as children, we're like, we want to solve the puzzle. We want to make it good. And so since no one's taking the responsibility, no one is owning anything. So we're like, that's okay. I can make it better. I can fix it. 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 Right? And then you think when you're a child, if you fix it, you won't have to suffer anymore because everything will be good. But that's not how it happens. That's not how it works out. No. Because when enablers and abusers see that you have figured it out, then they find something else because they're addicted to the drama. They're addicted to, you know, the blaming or the shaming or the guilting or the well, this is wrong now. Well, there are some people in this world that just always need something wrong. And so I say all of that, Simi, to say it is leftover behaviors. It's just wrong thinking. It's just behaviors left over from childhood. And I want to encourage you to understand that those behaviors kept you alive. Okay, those behaviors helped you at some point. So please, 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 please resist the urge to shame yourself because you have old thinking or wrong thinking or old behaviors that are latent behaviors from childhood. So a lot of times if we are scapegoated or if we are abused or if the people that are in our lives are not taking responsibility for things that are theirs, in an effort to fix everything and make things great, we will own it for them and take that responsibility. And so therefore we are used to taking on not only the responsibility, but if something doesn't go just right, then we feel guilty that it doesn't go just right, because of course the whole world and everything in it is our responsibility to make it great, right? Because that's what we were trained to think as children. So Simi, I hope that helps you. It is part of your grooming, even if the way I explained it just now doesn't resonate with you because you're like, wait, what? No, I mean, I don't even know who my enabler is. And you know, my abusers took great responsibility and whatever. I'm telling you that it is part of your grooming. And when we are groomed, we are lured, and then we are diverted, and then we are lured, and then it switches. They flip the script. They flip the script. They flip the script. And so in adulthood, when things don't go the way that we hope they will go, we feel bad because we somehow believe in our child's mind that we could have done something better. We could have done something better to make it better. We could have done something to make it great. And it's a lot of pressure to put on ourselves. It's a lot of pressure. And I'm hoping and praying that you will be able to release yourself from the responsibility, because the only person that you're responsible for is you. And if you have children that are placed in your care that are underage or are disabled, and that is who we are responsible for. We are responsible only for the things that we can actually be a part of, and we can ultimately only control our own attitude and the way we respond to everything. But feeling guilty all the time it's a result of our grooming, and it's a result of gaslighting and manipulation, and it honestly is a byproduct and a result of being in a environment as a child, a family of origin that is codependent or unhealthy, or that they shift blame a lot or point the finger in a lot of directions. So I hope that was helpful, Simi. Please let me know if it was. I want to make sure that my my answers are helpful to you guys. So let's see. Nikki says, I have never met anyone else in my entire life who is like all of us. This is so insane for me. Welcome, Nikki. Welcome home. You're home. There are statistically 1 billion of us. There are 7 billion people on the planet, and statistically, if I'm being super kind, there are 1 billion survivors. 1 billion of us will or have been sexually abused before our 18th birthday, and therefore we have cumulative trauma in our lives. So you are not alone, Nikki, and I am so, so, so happy that you're here with us. Allison McGarity says, even in elementary school, my father treated me like a wife. I sorted laundry, I cooked every meal, I packed lunches, cleaned, I had to memorize groceries we had in case he spontaneously went to the store. Oh my goodness. I remember my dad would leave money for me on the table, and he would leave a note. I gotta look at you in the face. My dad would leave money on the table and a note so that I could go buy his cigarettes. You can't make this stuff up. It's just the culture we grew up in. It's just dysfunction. It's dysfunction. It's what it is, you know. So our families of origin had a responsibility to raise us and teach us and train us and be role models for us, and some of us did not have that, and I'm so sorry that your dad treated you like that. I want you to Google a term, if you could, please. Pete Walker. If you go to pete-walker.com, he has a lot of information on like emotional incest, parentification. Google those terms. And Allison McGarity, incest and parentification. And just see if any of it resonates with you, and educate yourself. Educate yourself so that you feel equipped and that you can take your power back and you don't feel like you're at the will, at the mercy of other people, because we want you to feel fully equipped. So let's see here. Dark Eyes says, I understand now if I am feeling safe, then I am not. But if I don't, I do, if that makes sense. I understand now if I'm feeling safe, then I am not. But if I don't, I do. Oh. I think I understand what you're saying. Dark Eyes, Dark Eyes, Dark Eyes. Okay, please tell me if this is what you're trying to say, Dark Eyes, because are you trying to say your sensor is broken? Your safety sensor? So like if you're in a situation and you're like, yeah, this is totally familiar. This is totally good. I'm used to this. This is exactly like what I'm used to. And you're like, you know, but you're going, then all of a sudden you go, wait a second. It feels familiar, but that means that it's twisted and toxic and probably not healthy. And then if something feels unfamiliar and unsafe, it's because it's unfamiliar to you because you haven't experienced safety. And so even good situations appear scary to you. And so like your safety sensor is broken. Is that what you're trying to say? Dark Eyes, I know those are very technical terms that I just used. Not, but let me know if that's what you're trying to say, because I totally relate if that's what you're trying to say. John Harvey, hey John, I'm so happy to see you. John Harvey says, I never blamed myself as a kid, but I kept my mind blank. And I tried not to think. I couldn't come to terms with my abuse until 15 years later. Oh my goodness, John. Oh, this is so common. I get an email, a tweet, a Facebook message, or a voice message, or some sort of a website message at least once a week on this topic. And that is, if my abuse really happened, why didn't I remember it right away? And why, and if it's a girl, she's usually saying, why did I remember it in my 30s? And if it's a guy, I was like 40 and I started having like really vivid memories. And this is why, because our brains, our miraculous, amazing brains protect us. They protect us. And so since our brains protect us, then if our subconscious and our mind, if our subconscious starts to feel like we're feeling really stressed out, like we're starting to remember something and it's causing us some distress, then we instinctively, because our brains are trying to protect us, numb, stuff, or avoid. We numb through busyness, drugs, alcohol, gambling, social media, video games, I don't know, there's shopping, all kinds of stuff. However, like we numb out, right? And we stuff just by stuffing, like, ain't nobody got no time for this. Stuff it. I'll deal with that later. I cannot deal with this right now. I cannot. I need to adult today, so I cannot deal with what I'm about ready to deal with. Stuff it. So we numb, we stuff, and then we avoid. And then ways that we avoid are we back burner it, or which is kind of like stuffing, but not really. We avoid it by just shifting our mindset, or we say, oh, I'll deal with that in a minute. Or we avoid it by procrastination, or we avoid it just through there are all kinds of different ways that we can avoid. In fact, I think Matt from Surviving My Past wrote a really good article on avoidance. I'm trying to remember the exact title of that article right now. Matt, if you are watching, which I think you are, can you please, or can someone please tweet out that article on avoidance as a coping strategy? Because avoidance is a coping strategy. So, and I think I might have made a video on avoidance as a coping strategy. Hold on, let me get a drink of water. Thank you. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, so we numb stuff and avoid, John. That's what we do. Because we need to stay alive. We need to protect ourselves. We need to not feel. As long as we don't feel the feels, then we can function. That's what we think. But in reality, we can't heal unless we stop numbing and we stop stuffing and we stop avoiding. Unless we feel all of our feels, then we can't heal. I just rhymed. So yeah, you got to feel all your feels, and it's super painful. That's when grieving comes in. Hey, Harriet, could you pop up a YouTube link for the grief process in childhood trauma recovery, or what is it? The grieving process, or the grief work associated with trauma recovery. I forget the name of the video, but it's on our YouTube channel, on our Roku TV channel. By the way, if you're watching on Roku, I'm very, very, very thankful for you. Thank you for all the 5-star reviews, you guys. So grateful. You guys are really helping a lot, because more people are receiving help because you are rating us so high. And if this video is helpful, give it a thumbs up on YouTube, you guys, because the more thumbs up and the more, like, you know, good things, then they put us up in search, and that means more survivors get help. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Let me see. John, thank you for asking that question. I hope that answer was helpful for you. But yeah, I couldn't come to terms with my abuse until 15 years later. It is a lot of times because our brains are protecting us. And then the way they protect us is by numbing, stuffing, and avoiding. And then we come to terms with it all, and we decide to go through the grieving process, and we actually fully accept our abuse, which there's a 2-hour special that we did on this YouTube channel video. Harriet, if you could pop up a YouTube card on accepting the reality of your abuse, or fully accepting the impact of your abuse, accepting the reality of your childhood abuse. I forget how it's worded, but if you could pop up a YouTube card right there, that would be awesome, Harriet. Thank you so much. Lynn says, and thank you for your comment, John Harvey. You don't comment as often as I would love you to. I'm so happy you're here. So thank you so much for participating. I'm really grateful. Lynn says, as a child, I would play back the entire day in my head to see if there was anything I would get in trouble for. Oh my gosh, I have done this. Oh my goodness, I have done this. I have done this. You go talk about hypervigilance. There's a video on that too, Harriet. They're put down in the description section. Harriet is going to link up a whole bunch of videos, and she's going to do a YouTube card here too, for hypervigilance. There's a level of hypervigilance that we live in. We sort of operate in, that we exist in this state of hypervigilance as abuse survivors, because we want to dot all of our I's and cross all of our T's to make sure that nothing bad happens, and we've covered all of our bases, so to speak. So yeah, I resonate with that, Lynn, deeply. Heroes don't wear capes. Hi. She says, he or she, I'm assuming it's a she. In fact, I think it might be. I survived CSE, childhood sexual exploitation, and CSA, childhood sexual abuse. And yet I feel like it's impossible to stop repeating this shit. It is very exhausting. I just want to hide away, but thank you for your support. Oh, you are so welcome. Yeah, there are some days when I just want to throw the covers over my head, and I just want to hide away also. You know, those days are going to come, but I promise you, the more we surround ourselves with healthy, safe people, and the more healthy habits we create for ourselves, and we reparent ourselves, the more we take care of ourselves now and do the right things in the right way at the right time, and the more we are dedicated to this healing journey and creating for ourselves a proactive lifestyle instead of this constant state of reactivity. Like when you're in a reactive state 24/7, 365, it is exhausting. And that's kind of the way we feel as trauma survivors. We're reacting everywhere. Like it's the post-traumatic response, and it's just what we do. But when we create for ourselves like margin and boundaries and proactive lifestyle, and we surround ourselves with healthy people and safe people, and we create healthy habits for ourselves, and we just make ourselves a priority. We make the time. We set ourselves up for success in those ways. I promise you it gets better. I promise you. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sitting here. I would have completed my suicide attempt. I'm telling you. I'm so happy that you're here getting the support you deserve. Oh my goodness. Simi says, your answers were very helpful. Thank you. You're welcome. I'm so happy. Thank you for letting me know. Not everybody lets me know. Allison McGarity says, I hate how healthy partners with traditional families approach me and like me until they figure out about my dysfunctional family and my ugly past. Yeah. I got something to say about that. Healthy partners from healthy families who treat you differently when they find out about your family aren't that healthy. Just saying. Just saying. People who are healthy and come from a healthy background, and then they find out about our not so healthy background, and they decide to treat us like shit afterwards, says more about their character than it does about yours. Because here you are trying to heal. What are they doing? Judging you and being an asshole. So maybe not such a healthy person now. Maybe they came from a healthy background, but now here they are. Like, look at me, I'm so awesome and my family's so awesome, but I'm looking down my nose at you and I'm an asshole. Because if I wasn't, I would be accepting you and loving you right where you're at. And I would be supporting you and being like, whoa, go you, look at you. You're trying to heal and you're doing so many awesome things that your unhealthy family didn't teach you. Go you. So I want to tell you right now, Allison, high fives. You're here. You're doing the hard work. And guess what? Unless those assholes are in the arena getting their hair ripped out and losing fingers and getting beat up on a daily basis trying to figure out how to do life because they weren't taught as children, their opinions don't matter. They don't get to have an opinion in your life. That's all I'm saying. So if you don't have the courage to feel that way about yourself right now, you can borrow some of mine, because I got enough mama bear in me for all 2,500 of you. I do. And I'm telling you, unless they're in the arena with you, and I'm quoting Brene Brown, Brene Brown, Brene Brown, unless they're in the arena with you and they're fighting those battles with you, they don't get to have an opinion. And they don't get to have a say, and they don't get to judge you. So they can, but it doesn't matter. So this is your family right here. These are the people that you're hanging out with right here, for the most part, that are here doing the hard work. Those are the people that are going to have your back. Those are the ones that know what it's like to be in that arena, getting their hair ripped out and losing limbs and trying to figure out how to do life because no one taught them how. And those are the people you need to be listening to, not whoever is judging you because of your dysfunctional family and your ugly past. Because guess what? Every single person in the whole wide world has at least one family member that's dysfunctional, and every single person in the whole wide world has at least one thing that is ugly in their past. And they just don't want to tell you. They just cover it up better than all of the rest of us. So pay them no mind. I hope that doesn't sound like a platitude. That is not my heart. I want you to feel encouraged. Oh, avoidance as a healthy boundary was that blog post I tried to tell you about earlier. Dark Eyes says, at ages 0 to 4, and then at age 12, and then again at 16, and then again from 16 to 23, and after that, I feel sometimes I have a big sign over my head saying, pick me, I am weak. Yes, Dark Eyes, I resonate with this greatly. I too was abused from 0 to 4, and probably in between then and 12, and then probably in between then and 16, and probably then again and throughout 16 and 23. And I did somehow feel that I had a sign, and it's because the way I entered the room, I was emotionally beat down. I really was. It's impossible not to be. I'm human. And I wasn't choosing healthy people to be around. I didn't even know what a healthy person was. So there are 2 books that saved my life, Dark Eyes, and I'm going to tell you about them right now. And I want you to write this down or type it into your phone and text it to yourself. You can do that. I've done it. Or however you want to do it. But just write this down, okay? Go on to Amazon or use the Amazon app on your phone or something and type this in. Boundaries by Townsend and Cloud, and Safe People by Townsend and Cloud. Read Safe People first, because yeah, we did have signs over our head saying, pick me, I'm weak. And in all reality, we weren't weak. We were just used. We were being used and manipulated and exploited, probably. I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for you. So I didn't know how to pick healthy people to be around. I didn't know what that looked like. It was so foreign. And the hardest part of the Safe People book for me was realizing the qualities of safe people versus unsafe people, and realizing that I was an unsafe person. And why, how could I not be? I was raised by unsafe people, and you know, monkey see, monkey do. Like I was raised by people who were manipulative and exploitative, and even though I'm not a manipulator and a person who exploits others, and or you know, I don't trade human beings for goods and services, and I don't get my own needs met at the expense of other people. I don't do those things, but I was raised by those people, and I was taught by experts on how to basically just survive, not really live, just survive. And so I was so beaten down emotionally. I had no self-esteem, no self-worth, no self-confidence, none of it. In fact, I was completely socially inept until I was probably 26. I want to say 26. Yeah. I mean, I wasn't taught like vocabulary and like how to like function and, you know, adult. I wasn't taught that. So we're not weak, but we were beaten down. And so that's why you had a sign. Felt like you had a sign, because predators can sense our vulnerability and our porous ego boundaries. There's some Richard Grannon for you. You guys got to subscribe to Richard Grannon's YouTube channel. Put Richard Grannon's YouTube channel in the notes below on the video description, and a link to Safe People and Boundaries. And I'm not an affiliate or anything. I don't get paid. Like, I'm just telling you because these books are life-changing, life-saving books. And there's another book by Manerth and Myers, and it's titled Love is a Choice. Yeah, love is a choice. And that's like, that'll blow your mind. So yeah, totally not your fault, but now here we are, we're adulting, and you're gonna become safe, surround yourself with safe people, you're gonna establish and maintain healthy boundaries, create healthy habits for yourself, surround yourself with awesome, healthy people, stay here in safe community and hold yourself accountable, and life's gonna be amazing. I'm telling you, it's gonna take some time. I've been at this for 17 years, so please just hang in there, don't give up. Little Miss, hi Little Miss. There are things I know happened to me that thank God I don't remember, and I hope the memories don't come up. Yeah, oh boy. Little Miss, I love you and I'm so happy you're here. They might come up, but when they do, please know that you'll get through them, okay? It is an unrealistic expectation and an unrealistic hope that those memories don't come up, because typically they will come up at the most inopportune times. Like when you're subconscious, when your brain decides that you are like in a good place, they'll all come up. So when they do, Little Miss, I want you to know that you have a friend in me. I'm remembering Toy Story. You got a friend in me. I forget the name of that song. I think it's called You've Got a Friend in Me. But anyway, Toy Story soundtrack. Yeah, Little Miss, you have a huge family. Thousands of us just here on this channel in 180 countries. And all of our memories ended up coming up at some point. And that's why we're here. But we're healing together, and you're not alone. And anything that comes your way, you can handle it with the help of other people. So Heroes Don't Wear Capes says, what if the people that were meant to help were the opposite, though? Like they pretend and are actually traffickers. It's very hard. Yeah, that's often the case. That was my situation. Only back in the day, they weren't called traffickers. They were called family. It is very hard. It's very, 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 very hard. Very hard. They pretend. They pretend really well. They were taught by other people who pretended really well, probably. And not letting them off the hook. They're all responsible. They're all responsible for their actions, and they'll be held accountable someday, but not by me. So I'm so, so, so sorry. Heroes Don't Wear Capes. You're not alone. I've lived it. Some days are harder than others. Mother's Day, Father's Day, a lot of Hallmark holidays. Those days are harder than other days. I have a lot of loved ones and friends that are in this community that there are a lot of anniversary dates for satanic ritual abuse, or a lot of religious abuse that happened, a lot of cult type activity, human sacrifice, animal sacrifice, all kinds of crazy stuff that happens on certain days. And those people pretended really well. Like, they go to the grocery store like anybody else. They're sitting at a red light while you're munching on a French fry, just like anybody else. But they're human traffickers. They're people who you know, are in a cult, people who sacrifice other babies and humans and, you know, kill animals and drink blood and all kinds of crazy, crazy, crazy stuff. So it is very hard. You nailed it when you said it's very hard. Those 3 words are very true, the truest. It is very hard. And I hope being here with everyone else helps you feel less alone. And I hope you don't give up, because I promise it's worth it. It's getting better, and it's worth it. I promise. Allison McGarity says, why do you guys want to remember so badly if it was so awful and it's already in the past? Huh. Well, I think the best way to answer this, Allison, is to say that numbing, stuffing, and avoiding, or just using like what's past is in the past, and not really accepting what it is that's happened to us. If we just say, oh, that was in the past, you know, and we don't really fully accept what's happened to us, then we can never truly heal. So the reason that and I wouldn't agree with the terminology that is used here and the way the sentence is formed. It's not that we want to remember. It's not like I'm like, ooh, I know what I want. I know what I want for Christmas. I want to remember all kinds of shitty memories from my childhood, from being trafficked and sexually abused. Yeah. No, it's not that I want it. I don't want to. Sometimes we remember things, and in remembering and in processing and in acceptance comes healing. I will never fully heal unless I fully accept everything that's happened to me, and I don't try to stuff it, and I'm not ashamed of it. You know, the more I'm ashamed of something and I try to stuff it or make it go away because it's in the past, the more it will haunt me and chase me down and show up when I don't want it to. And I'm only speaking from personal experience, because that's what happened to me. I tried not remembering. I tried not remembering for 30 years, 20-something years probably, like 25, 26 years. I tried not remembering. I tried just like, who's got time for this? This is in the past. Like, get over it. Get over yourself, Athena. Are you kidding me right now? Nobody cares. Pull up your big girl panties and move on. But that didn't work for me. And so when I saw the effects it was having on my own child and how I was overcome by rage, and I was raging out at my child instead of, and I didn't realize there was a such thing as displaced anger. And once I dealt with my own trauma, then I no longer raged out. So I saw the benefits immediately of dealing with it and actually remembering it and processing it, because I no longer raged out at my child. I actually was a loving parent, and I was patient and kind, and So yeah, I saw the benefits. I think the short answer is because there's huge benefits in remembering and processing and grieving and healing. So it's a process. You can't unbake the cake. So yeah, I hope that was helpful, Allison. Thank you for asking. That's a good question. Really good question. Shy Sharon says, I had a flashing red light on my forehead that said, take me. Only sick men could see. Yes, I think you and I had the same flashing light, Shy Sharon. Our families must have went shopping at the exact same market to buy us the same light so that we could have it firmly planted right here on our forehead so that all of the predators could be like, there's a good one. Yeah. Little humor there. But yeah, Sharon, I'm so happy that we're no longer, we no longer have that flashing red light because we have addressed our trauma and we're accepting it and we're healing from it. So go us, high fives. So Dark Eyes says, quick question, does the anger ever go away? Yes. Dark Eyes, quick answer for your quick question. Yes, it does. I promise it does. It takes a while. It's a process. It's a process. And sometimes we go through like denial, like when we're in denial, like, oh, yeah, that never really happened. Like, that probably never happened. I'm probably just making that up. Yeah, or it's not that bad. Like, other people have been through worse. And then when we realize that we went through some shit, we're like, oh my gosh. And we sort of freeze. And then we see somebody we know and love, and they're going through something similar, and we get really angry. Or we just all of a sudden get in touch with that anger, right? It's hard because we're afraid of the anger because we were never allowed to feel emotions that weren't like perfect and good. We weren't allowed to feel emotions that were not in compliance. But yeah, the anger does go away. And like, why me? Why do I have to deal with this? Yeah, I've asked myself those things. Dark Eyes, you're not alone. It does. It just takes some time. It takes time, but I promise it does. It goes away. It subsides. And then it comes back, and then you deal with it differently because you've been through it before and you know you can make it through. So hopefully that helps. Janie Machine says, my mom's the same. She went through childhood sexual abuse too. She wasn't my abuser. And then she's pushed it into the back of my mind and pushed it into the back of my mind, and that works for her, but she struggles to actually heal from things. Oh, yeah, for sure. Like my mom went through some trauma as well, and I've asked her about it like back in the day, like years ago when I was still really in close touch with my mother. I would try to get her to she would ask me questions like, how are you doing so good? Like, how are you healing from stuff? Like, you're doing so awesome, and you're really like, your life is turned around, and how do you do that? And I'm like, well, I'm really doing the hard work. Like, I'm really healing from everything I've been through, and I'm addressing it, and I'm not ignoring it and pushing it down. And like, let's talk about some of the stuff you've been through. And I would ask her questions. And when I started my very, very, very first podcast, like way back in 2013, I interviewed my mom, and I asked her questions about her childhood. And but she minimized it all. She minimized it, oh yeah, this happened and that happened, and yeah, and it's all good, I'm fine. And I'm like, are you really fine? Like, you're kind of struggling. So once we address our trauma and we acknowledge it for what it is, and we show it the respect it deserves because we've been through some hell, then we're actually able to fully heal. Once we acknowledge and accept the trauma that we've been through, we can actually fully heal. So only then can we fully heal. Thank you for being in the chat box, Janie, and providing support. Dawn says, if we say it was in the past, then one day when it is out and about and bam, we're triggered. Exactly. Because that's called denial. Oh, that's in the past. Let's just minimize that. That's minimization and denial. Oh, sure. Yeah, that happened, but it's in the past. It's like someone getting a chainsaw and then like sawing off your arm and then like you're in excruciating pain, and if you don't die from loss of blood, you have this stump, right? You have a stump left that's like used to be an arm. One of your appendages is gone. And then for the rest of your life, you have like a stump. You don't have an arm, right? You can't like reach over and get an awesome sip of water like this. And then you're dealing with some stuff, but like if your whole life you go, oh yeah, I don't have an arm, but that's in the past. Like it's freaking traumatic to not have an arm. I mean, your arm got sawed off by a chainsaw. That's kind of a big deal. At some point, you got to deal with what it is that happened. Show it the attention and the respect that it deserves, because it's a big deal and it affects your life. Anything that affects your life mentally, emotionally, physically, it deserves our attention. So yeah, just saying that it's in the past doesn't make it not so. Little Miss says, I think that dissonance is what makes predators in our adulthood attracted to us. I think dissonance plays a part, but it's not the only thing that makes predators in our adulthood attracted to us. I think predators sense that we have been beaten down emotionally and we have very porous ego boundaries, and that is why they're attracted to us in adulthood. I think that dissonance plays a part in our lives, in why we show up the way we do. Like there's cognitive dissonance, which we did a video. Harriet, if you could pop up a YouTube card on cognitive dissonance, then we show up differently in the world because of the dissonance. And then the predators, and we're basically just, we take all of our porous ego boundaries and then we wave them like a flag. Like, hey, everybody over here, come take advantage of me. And that's what dissonance does. And because there's just this unsettledness about us, right? And then we sort of romanticize everything. And then the predators see that, they smell it, and then they pounce. That's what happens. So I think dissonance plays a part, but I think it's our porous ego boundaries and our lack of self-esteem. And, you know, Rebecca Rose says, wow, Athena, I didn't realize there were other satanic ritual abuse survivors here. I needed to hear that. Thanks. Oh, I'm so glad. Rebecca, you're not alone. You are not alone, Rebecca. There are many here. I get emails every week from someone that has survived some sort of cult type abuse. Not everyone. I don't get emails every week that people that were abused within the satanic ritual abuse realm, but I do get emails every week from people who have survived some sort of cult type abuse, whether it be religious cults, satanic ritual abuse. There are a lot of different cult things going on out there. I think I need to do a video on cults in general. You know who would be a great resource or even a guest would be Vinnie Kosis. She wrote a book called Cult Child, and she survived a religious cult. But yeah, there are other satanic ritual abuse survivors here in this community for sure. They're not as outspoken. They don't interact a lot with everybody else, but they have somehow over the past 3 years come to feel safe communicating with me, and they've shared things with me. So I won't share their identities, because I think the reason they feel safe sharing with me is because they understand that I respect their privacy. So Heroes Don't Wear Capes says, I've done a lot of research lately, and I don't know if it's made me paranoid or not, but I swear every single person around me meets the criteria. Is that possible? Oh, referring to unsafe people, probably. I want to answer this as best as I know how, in a way that is respectful to in what I believe you're asking in the question. I believe you're asking and I might be wrong, but I'm going to move on to our screen share that has a lot of research on the cumulative nature of trauma just so you guys can have some education. This has been an awesome hangout. I really feel like we need to just have more open discussions like this. But I want to make sure I educate you and equip you before I leave. So I'm going to answer this question, and then I'm going to do our screen share, okay? I believe what you're asking, heroes don't wear capes, is right now in your immediate sphere of influence are a lot of people unsafe. And I want to say, I don't think you're paranoid. I want to say that it is likely. For instance, okay, so in my 20s, if I look back right now, I want to say 99% of the people in my life were unsafe. It just is what it is. I didn't know what a safe person was. I didn't know what a safe person was until 2006, 2007, 8 years ago. That was an eye-opener for me. And I started looking around going, oh my goodness, a lot of the people I've been spending my time with have been unsafe people, and I'm an unsafe person. I'm an unsafe person because I didn't know how to be a safe person, but now I have a desire to be a safe person, so how do I do that? And I just started learning, just devoted myself to learning, you know, what safe people were, surrounding myself with people who were previously unsafe people. You know, I got into a group study. I did a group study of that book, Safe People, actually. I got together with a group of people, and we all studied the book. And then I did a group study with the book Boundaries, and I did that 3 times, 3 different groups of people, because I just needed it. Like, when you are abused as a child, sexually, emotionally, verbally, physically, or otherwise, your boundaries are not respected. If you're on this YouTube channel or this Roku TV channel, or you're listening to this podcast, and you were abused as a child, your boundaries were not respected, and unsafe people took advantage of you or exploited you. So while you were in your developmental years, you didn't know how to discern what was safe and what wasn't safe. Life was just life. People were just people. The whole world is like that, in your opinion, when you're that age. You don't distinguish safe from unsafe, good from bad. It's just, life is life. This is the way life is. At least I can only speak for myself and the clients I've helped and the people in our community, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of you. All you know is all you know. So I don't think you're paranoid. I think that your eyes have been opened, the veil has been lifted, and you will begin to take steps to, it will be like doing surgery on your life, on your relationships. There are some people that will learn to accept you and love you for the new healthy person that you're becoming, or they won't. And they liked you better when you had porous ego boundaries and no self-esteem, and you let them walk all over you. There's a real good book called Emotional Blackmail. I forget the name of the author. And there's another good book called Human Doormat Syndrome, or the Human Doormat. I believe it's called. Anyway, both of those books, huge eye-openers. But I still think Safe People and Boundaries were the most helpful for me. And the book by Nathan Myers called Love is a Choice, which gives you a lot of case studies. Like, there's 20 different case studies of different relationships that all didn't have healthy boundaries, and they weren't with safe people, and like it was what it looked like, and then it sort of flipped it for you. Like, now this is what a healthy response would be like. So it almost like, I felt like I really have gotten an opportunity. I feel like I've really gotten an opportunity over the past like 11 years to reparent myself. And it's been really healthy for me. And it sucks that I had to reparent myself, but it is what it is. I'm glad that I had the opportunity to become healthy and to help other people now. So I'm super stoked that I get to help you guys. Hey, what is this? What are these? Are those bugs? I hope they're not bugs. Oh, they're not bugs. Those are not bugs. Those are holes in the wall. Okay, so I'm going to do screen share with you guys now because I want to make sure that you're equipped with everything that you need for healthy trauma-informed care. Hopefully I can find this here. All right, we're going to read pretty fast because I want to be respectful of your time. Okay, guys? Here we go. I'm going to start right up at the top here in the green section from the TorontoPsychologyCenter.com. If you go down into the description section of this video right now, you will have links to all of these websites. Special shout out and thank you to Maggie for all of your excellent help this week. Here we go, starting with the green. Complex trauma and childhood abuse. Complex trauma refers to repeated interpersonal trauma often occurring in childhood. This type of trauma includes sexual and physical abuse as well as emotional abuse and neglect. Emotional abuse can include verbal attacks, incidents of humiliating or threatening behavior, and witnessing violence against loved ones, whereas emotional neglect involves a failure to provide a child's basic emotional needs, such as love, attention, understanding, affection, support, and protection. There was a dearth of all of that in a lot of our childhoods. Moving on, I'm going right here to the word exposure. Exposure to such experiences of abuse and neglect can be particularly damaging because they are usually chronic, occur during developmentally vulnerable periods of life, such as during critical periods of brain development and personality formation, and they involve harm and or betrayal within relationships that are supposed to be trustworthy, nurturing, and protective. As a result, these experiences compromise normal self-development and basic trust in primary relationships. In addition to being at higher risk for developing PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, individuals who have suffered complex trauma are also at higher risk for other anxiety disorders, depression, low self-esteem, substance use problems, and impulsive and self-destructive behaviors. Complex trauma can profoundly affect fundamental aspects of oneself and one's ability to relate to others, resulting in problems in the areas of, number one, emotion. Emotional regulation difficulties such as too much or too little emotion, limited awareness of feelings, difficulty with self-soothing. Number two, or not number two, second bullet point underneath number one, which is emotion. Second bullet point, chronic feelings of fear, anger, shame, sadness, helplessness, hopelessness. These are all, you guys, these are all byproducts of childhood abuse, complex trauma during childhood, traumatic childhood abuse, any type of childhood abuse. These are all byproducts of that. Third bullet point, impulsive or self-destructive behaviors related to difficulties managing emotions, addictions, self-harm, and disordered eating, which does include anorexia nervosa, bulimia, and even body dysmorphic disorder. Number two, mind and self-concept. First bullet point, sense of self as bad, inadequate, weak, powerless, worthless, or undeserving. Where are my peeps at right now? Where are my peeps at right now that struggle because they think that they are worthless and undeserving? They feel guilty all the time. They feel weak, inadequate, bad, powerless, worthless, hopeless. Where are all my peeps at right now? This is speaking my language, and I know you guys are out there with me. Bullet point number two, the ways that complex trauma and childhood abuse affect our mind and self-concept. Bullet point number two, self-critical, self-blaming, hypersensitivity to criticism and rejection. Bullet point number three, identity problems, not feeling whole, lacking a clear, stable sense of self, inner sense of confusion, frequent changes in career, life goals, etc. Bullet point number four, alterations in attention and memory. Example, dissociation, difficulty focusing. Anybody? Anybody else? Just me? Am I the only one that dissociates and has difficulty focusing? You guys, I'm just going to pause right here. I'm pausing right here on number three, okay? I just want to comment on the last two areas that we just read through. I never knew until about, I don't know, like 5 years ago or so that any of my childhood abuse, I didn't know that my childhood abuse had anything to do with the struggles I was having in my adult years. I want to look at you guys for just a second. You guys, I never knew that the struggles I was having in my adult years were in part as a result of my childhood abuse. And once I realized that the struggles I was having were connected, it opened up this whole new world to me. And I was like, wait a second, it's all connected? Oh my goodness. And this is why I want to remember. This is why I want to fully accept what I have been through so that I can fully heal. Okay, I'm going to screen share again, but I just wanted you guys to know that if you never put two and two and two and two together and realize that some of the struggles that you're having in your adulthood might be maybe connected to some trauma that you experienced during childhood, I just want to give you permission to be mind blown, because I was. Okay, I'm going to screen share again. We're still in the green. We're on number 3. Number 3, relationships. These are ways that our childhood abuse affects us in adulthood, possibly. Bullet point number 1, problems with trust and intimacy in relationships. For example, jealousy, difficulties committing to relationships, difficulty being vulnerable. Bullet point number 2, difficulties with self-assertion and setting limits in relationships. Bullet point number 3, sense of isolation and alienation. Example, difficulties connecting to others. Anybody else out there isolate? I'm an isolator. I isolate like all the time. Okay, number 4, ways that our childhood abuse affects our body. Frequent physical health problems. For example, chronic pain. Anybody? Irritable bowel syndrome, headaches, hypertension, sexual pain, and sexual dysfunction. Bullet point number 2, hypersensitivity to physical contact, sounds, and other stimuli. Like, you know, PTSD type response, like when you have a exaggerated startle response. I know I might be the only person that has that, but hello, it's me for sure. And the last bullet point under number 4, sleep problems. There's a video that we did on insomnia. Oh my goodness. Or sleep disturbances. Sleep disturbances. Oh my goodness. Harriet, can you link down below in the description section of this video sleep disturbances? Because man. Okay, we're going to move on to the blue, and I'm almost done because I want to be respectful of you guys' time, okay? The blue. This is ways that we can help ourselves, okay? Emotion-focused therapy for trauma. It's called EFTT. You might also know it's also called tapping, okay? It's an effective treatment for complex trauma related to childhood abuse or neglect. And you'll be able to read more about the treatment if you go down into the description section of this video. There are links for you to click on if you want to learn more about EFT. We all use the word trauma in everyday language to mean a highly stressful event, but the key to understanding traumatic events is that it refers to extreme stress that overwhelms a person's ability to cope. There are no clear divisions between stress, trauma, and adaptations. Although I am writing about psychological trauma, it is also important to keep in mind that stress reactions are clearly physiological as well. Different experts in the field define psychological trauma in different ways. What I want to emphasize is that in an individual's subjective experience, that it is in an individual's subjective experience that determines whether an event is or is not traumatic. So you guys, if just because something doesn't traumatize somebody else doesn't mean that it can't traumatize you. It's not ever one size fits all. Recovery is not one size fits all, and healing is not one size fits all. I'm moving on to the sentence that starts with the word psychological trauma right here. I'm going to take a drink of water really quick. 1 second. Here we go. Psychological trauma is the unique individual experience of an event or enduring conditions in which First bullet point, the individual's ability to integrate his or her emotional experience is overwhelmed, or the individual's experiences subjectively, they experience a threat to life, bodily integrity, or sanity. And that's as quoted by Perlman and Sackvitney in 1995. That's all linked below in the video description here, just for copyright purposes. Thus, a traumatic event or situation creates psychological trauma when it overwhelms the individual's ability to cope and leaves that person fearing death, annihilation, mutilation, or psychosis. The individual may feel emotionally, cognitively, and physically overwhelmed. The circumstances of the event commonly include abuse of power. Hello? Anyone? Anyone? Abuse of power? Did anybody else have an abuser that they had power over us? Betrayal of trust, entrapment, helplessness, pain, confusion, and or loss. Moving down here to, and by the way, this is all linked below in the description. An important feature of trauma is how traumatic experiences become encoded in the brain as memories and throughout the body as sensory information. Big T trauma is usually associated with specific large-scale events that elicit strong affective sensations, which are sensations accompanied by a strong compulsion to respond, such as the reflex of withdrawing one's hand from a hot object, as well as powerful visual images called snapshot memories. This is sometimes, you guys, right here, this snapshot memories. So there's affective sensations, which is like when we remove our hand quickly, instinctively off of a hot burner. And then there are snapshot memories when we're remembering something, or we have a nightmare, or we have like a emotional flashback or some sort of a memory of something that happened to us. Being both sensory and visual, the memories of big T traumas are stored in both hemispheres of the brain, but primarily in the right hemisphere. Conversely, little T traumas are not discrete events or situations, but rather continual attitudes and sensations that a person experiences over time, such as ongoing criticism or neglect. This is where you guys here, where we're talking about little t trauma. This is where the term complex post-traumatic stress disorder comes from, complex PTSD, which, by the way, Pete Walker wrote a great book called Complex PTSD From Surviving to Thriving. I highly recommend that book. It's great. Like, I refer back to it on a regular basis. Moving on. Little t traumas are primarily recorded in the right hemisphere as memory imprints, such as negative self-concepts, negative beliefs, or feelings of isolation. This is why we keep doing the things we do, or this is why we isolate, because we have this fear, like, because it's over time, right? It's a long period of time. So we have this fear, like up here, where we're fearing death, annihilation, mutilation, psychosis. We feel emotionally, cognitively, and physically overwhelmed. The circumstances of this event commonly include abuse of power, betrayal of trust, entrapment, helplessness, pain, confusion, and or loss. If that happens over a long period of time, you guys, it's stored in our bodies. It's stored in our minds. Like, we make decisions in our life based on that. So little t traumas are primarily recorded in the right hemisphere as memory imprints, which is why they get recalled. We have instant recall of those. In a simplistic sense, in order for any traumatic experience to be processed, it must be felt by the right brain, then analyzed, interpreted, and understood by the left brain. Otherwise, a traumatized person may relive an event over and over again without examining it and coming to terms with it, with what it means. So when we can't solve the puzzle, we relive it over and over and over and over and over again. So we're not trying to have these memories. They're haunting us. We have these little memories, and we're trying to figure it out. We're trying to solve the puzzle. We're trying to solve the puzzle. So we wish that we didn't have to, but sometimes we end up needing to solve the puzzle. So here we go. I'm doing the yellow one now, okay, by biology, and then I'm going to be done. I want to be respectful of your time. Biology and the endless wheel of trauma and addiction. So I really want any of you who are struggling with any type of addictive behaviors, pay close attention here, and please know that this is not, I'm not reading you any of this so that you'll pile more shame on top of yourself, because we all have enough shame. That's why this chat is called No More Shame on Twitter, hashtag No More Shame. Okay, this is all meant to equip you and help you so that you can feel fully supported and encouraged and have everything you need for healthy trauma-informed recovery. So I'm going to read from the top, okay? Trauma, emotional and limbic dysregulation. Oh, trauma is defined as emotional and limbic dysregulation, which can also lead to the body becoming symptomatic or somatic disturbances and upsetting body sensations. Fear or intense emotions can set in motion heart pounding, queasiness, sweating, tightness of muscles, or shortness of breath. This rise in disturbing body sensations can trigger disturbing emotions and trauma imagery that is stored in the mind. Scenes from past situations where we felt helpless or scared can race through our minds as flashbacks or even nightmares. This can become a vicious cycle in which the body and mind play off each other, causing a negative synergy in which the disturbing emotions and imagery trigger disturbing body sensations and vice versa. Hey, Harriet, if you could please pop up a video, a YouTube card, a link for the video titled Body Memories. That would be amazing, because we did a video on this, body memories. This can drop trauma survivors into a confusing emotional, psychological, and physiological black hole, and they can have trouble finding their way out and can contribute to feeling scared, helpless, and disempowered all over again. Addiction. So the way that this all connects with addiction, drugs and alcohol for the trauma survivor can provide a way to quiet the mind and the body that they can have control over, a sort of self-administered medication, which is where we get the term self-medicate. Like, a lot of us went through periods of our lives where we're self-medicating so we don't have to deal with memories. Certain behaviors, particularly those that trigger a rise in dopamine levels in the brain, like eating, particularly sugar, white flour, and fatty foods, or sexual acting out, can have a similar soothing but addictive effect. The more these substances or behaviors are used to quiet and calm unwanted feelings and sensations, the more dependent we become on them, and the more convinced we become that we cannot calm down or feel okay without them. Cumulative adversities faced by many persons, communities, ethnocultural, religious, political, and sexual minority groups and societies around the globe can also constitute forms of complex trauma. Some occur over the life course beginning in childhood and have some of the same developmental impacts described above. Other trauma occurring later in life are often traumatic or potentially traumatic and can worsen the impact of early life complex trauma and cause the development of complex traumatic stress reactions. These adversities can include, but are not limited to, poverty, ongoing economic challenge, and lack of essentials or other resources. I want to pause for just a second, you guys. Is anybody else mind blown that a lot of the things I'm reading, if not all of them, can all be linked back to something that happened to me 40 years ago? Anybody? Anybody else mind blown? I mean, when I first started reading up on this kind of stuff about, like, I don't know, like 5, 6 something years ago, I have no idea when, but I was just mind blown. I'm like, wait a second here. You mean this is all connected? I know I already mentioned that. I don't mean to be a broken record, but goodness gracious. Anybody? Okay. Bullet point number 2, community violence and the inability to escape or relocate. That was me. I struggled. For me to move 20, 30 miles away was like a big, big, big deal, because I had the fear of God put in me that I was never allowed to leave. I was told
by one of my main abusers, I will always find you. Don't even bother trying to relocate. I will always find you. And I believed them. Okay, bullet point number 3, homelessness. Why? Because you weren't taught how to adult. You were too busy surviving as a child, and you weren't taught healthy hygiene and how to balance a checkbook and how to get a job and how to have a credit card and how to fill up the gas in your car and how to change the oil and how to adult. So what happens? You end up jobless and homeless. At least, I mean, I was seriously there, you guys. I was there, and I had a baby, and that was really hard. Oh my gosh. Bullet point number 4, disenfranchised, ethno-racial, religious, and/or sexual minority status and repercussions. Number 5, incarceration, residential placement, and ongoing threat and assault. Next bullet point, number 6, ongoing sexual and physical re-victimization and re-traumatization in the family or other contexts, including prostitution and sexual slavery. Okay, this is going out to some of my peeps earlier that were like, hello, like, why does this keep happening? Is it just me, or is, like, am I surrounded? Like, why does this keep happening to me? Like, I'm ages 4, and then I'm 6, and then I'm 16, and then I'm 20, and then I'm 23, and like, hello, like, it just keeps happening. Ongoing re-victimization, right here, re-victimization, because we are beaten down, that we don't believe that we're going to be able to get out. We have no hope. So it's very common. Next bullet point here. Human rights violations, including political repression, genocide, ethnic cleansing, and torture. We fall into these situations: displacement, refugee status, relocation, war. These are all complex trauma. All of these things are very complex in nature, and they're very traumatizing, you guys. And they can add and be, when you're dealing with something in the here and the now, it adds to the trauma that you experience in childhood. You don't get to just slice off a little piece of trauma and deal with it on its own. I'm going to finish up in the yellow here, okay? Displacement, refugee status, relocation, war and combat involvement or exposure, developmental, intellectual, physical health, mental health, psychiatric, and age-related limitations, impairments, and challenges. And last bullet point, exposure to death, dying, and the grotesque in emergency response work. That can be very traumatizing. If you work in emergency response work, all these things can trigger you. All of these things can trigger memories from childhood. Why? Because trauma is cumulative. It has a similar effect on the brain. Here we go. These are the 7 categories of additional after effects, including the following. Here we go, right here. And then we're done. Ready? Number 1, alterations in the regulation. Okay, just to be clear, what we're reading right now in this darker orange color, these are the after effects of not only childhood trauma, but being re-traumatized in adulthood. And these are the areas of our life in which we can be affected when we're trying to go through something that we think is a small deal now, but can trigger us into remembering things that are a big deal from a long time ago. We're always, one trauma triggers the next and triggers the next, all the way back to the very first trauma we've ever been to, that we ever went through. So the cumulative nature of trauma dictates that if we experience something in the here and the now, it's going to remind our brains of a similar feeling that it felt when we were being traumatized all those different other times. So it handles it all at the same time, like all at once, instead of dealing with one thing at a time. Number 1, it can cause us to have alterations in the regulation of affective impulses, including the difficulty with modulation and anger. Like person earlier, you guys asked, does the anger ever go away? Yes, it does, but oftentimes it'll hang out for a little while, but I promise it passes. Modulation of anger and of tendencies towards self-destructiveness. Remember on my birthday, there was a video that we did called self-sabotage? Yeah. This category has come to include all methods used for emotional regulation and self-soothing, even those that are paradoxical, such as addiction and self-harming behaviors. Number 2, alterations in attention and consciousness leading to amnesia and dissociative episodes and depersonalization. Harriet, would you please pop up the videos that we did on dissociation and depersonalization? Please, and link them down below in the description. This category includes emphasis on dissociative responses different than those found in the DSM criteria for PTSD. For those of you that are not in the United States, the DSM is the Diagnostic Statistical Manual. Right now we're on the 5th edition, and that is the manual that is used in America to diagnose and treat anyone with a mental illness. So, different than those found in the DSM criteria for PTSD. Its inclusion in the CPTSD conceptualization incorporates findings that dissociation tends to be related to prolonged and severe interpersonal abuse occurring during childhood, and secondarily, that children are more prone to dissociation than are adults. So children are more prone to dissociation, which sometimes when we dissociate as adults, it's because we've triggered a childhood memory. Like we're stuck in child mode. I know many of you email me about that all the time. So hopefully that helps. Number 3, alterations in self-perception, predominantly negative and involving a chronic sense of guilt. Anybody? Earlier, why do I feel guilty all the time? It's because of our trauma. It's because of the cumulative nature of our trauma. Chronic sense of guilt and responsibility and ongoing feelings of intense shame. Chronically abused individuals, especially children, incorporate abuse messages and post-traumatic responses into their developing sense of self and self-worth. Number 4, alterations in perception of the perpetrator. This is when we look at our abuser and then we're confused, you know, that we love them or we want to get away. We love them, but we want to get away. We have an alteration in the perception of our perpetrator, including the incorporation of his or her belief system. This criterion addresses the complex relational attachment systems that ensue following repetitive and premeditated abuse and lack of appropriate response at the hands of primary caretakers or others in position of authority. Number 5, we have alterations in relationship to others, such as not being able to trust the motives of others and not being able to feel intimate with them. Another quote-unquote lesson of abuse internalized by victims and survivors is that other people are venal and self-serving, out to get what they can by whatever means, including using or abusing others. Abuse survivors may be unaware that other people can be benign, caregiving, and not dangerous. I want to pause right here before we go on to number 6, and I just want to say that because of the black and white thinking, that when we get stuck in child mode, this sentence here, abuse survivors may be unaware that other people can be benign, caregiving, and not dangerous. I want to encourage you that it can also, the opposite can also be true. So many of us struggle with not knowing that other people are actually dangerous because we think for sure all the bad people are already gone. I've already gone through all the bad people. For sure, this is the one time. We always hold out hope. This is the one time that I'm finally meeting someone who is good. I finally met somebody who's caring. I finally met somebody who's safe. And then they end up not being. Our guard is let down because we have such porous ego boundaries and we don't have discernment. We don't even know what a safe person looks like, that we fall into the same trap because we are so worn down. So yes, while we can be unaware that other people might be benign, caregiving, and not dangerous, but the opposite is also true. So I just want you guys to know that, okay? We're almost done. Number 6, this is big. Somatization and or medical problems. Now, this is what this is telling us here, you guys, on number 6, is that our body, there's a book that Dr. Bessel van der Kolk wrote called The Body Keeps the Score. Harriet, if you could link that book up in the description section, that would be awesome. It's called The Body Keeps the Score. Our body actually remembers like if our body was damaged physically, it remembers. And so if something happens and like we're touched in a certain way, we'll have different aches or different pains. Something will happen and our body will actually feel the same as it did when we were abused. Number 6, somatization and or medical problems. These somatic reactions and medical conditions may relate directly to the type of abuse suffered and any physical damage that was caused, or they may be more diffuse. They have been found to involve all major body systems and to include many pain syndromes, mental illnesses, and somatic conditions. And last, but certainly not least, our trauma causes us to have alterations in systems of meaning. Chronically abused and traumatized individuals often feel hopeless about finding anyone to understand them or their suffering. They despair of being able to recover from their psychic anguish. So I want to end on a note of hope after that screen share, because that ran a lot longer than I intended for it to. I tried to read as fast as I could without rushing you. I don't want you to feel rushed. But oh my goodness, there are still so many of you. I only lost a couple. Whenever I go over, I lose a couple people. So, but I just want you guys to know that just because those are the effects of, those are the cumulative effects of trauma when you're traumatized in childhood and then you're also re-traumatized in adulthood. And the whole question, the $1 million question is, Athena, why when something small happens or something, you know, hits me now in adulthood, why am I flung back feeling like I'm 5 years old? Why am I flung back feeling like I'm a child? Why can't I just deal with the one thing that's happening right now, Athena? Why do I have to, why does it have to trigger everything else? Why does it all feel so overwhelming? And the answer is because your brain, remember, it's the memories of your trauma are stored in the right hemisphere, and then it has to be processed by the left hemisphere. And remember that the body remembers. And so remember, as we choose to address all of the traumas that have happened on all over our body and where it was stored and how our memories are being processed and acknowledged and not denied and minimized, and as we're actually acknowledging it and accepting it and realizing and owning it and sort of comforting the younger version of ourselves that did the best they could to protect us, but just, you know, they're little kids, so they couldn't protect themselves, you know. The more we release that shame, the more we accept ourselves for who we are, even though we've been through a lot, then the better we can feel equipped, the better choices we'll make, the healthier relationships we'll have, the more calm we will feel. We'll start to feel more of a sense of wholeness and peace. But if we are traumatized by something now, or we're dealing with something right now, and then we shame ourselves because we're like, what the heck is wrong with you, Athena? Why can't you just deal with that? It's just a small thing. Then all I'm doing is I'm adding complex trauma. I'm adding to the complex trauma I've already received because I'm minimizing what's going on and I'm shaming myself for not handling it better. And while all of that is ingrained into me because of my trauma, as I choose to move forward and press in to my recovery journey and heal and release it and acknowledge it when it comes, instead of stuffing it away and shoving it and putting it on the back burner because ain't nobody got no time for that, as I choose to deal with it in the here and the now and be patient and kind with myself, then I handle things differently and it doesn't traumatize me as much and it doesn't knock me sideways for as long. I had a situation happen last week. In fact, it was a little bit too fresh. I'm going to end with this, you guys. Oh my goodness. It was too fresh for me to talk about last week and it wasn't on topic at all. But I had something seemingly small happen. It's a perfect topic for this week. And then I'm going to let you guys go, okay? I'm just going to kind of sit here and just share. I had something seemingly small happen to me. I had someone, a friend of the family, show up at my house and think they were being helpful, but the way they were acting and the way they were speaking to me was very, very, very familiar. They were speaking to me and acting like
one of my main abusers. And I was frozen in time. I was unable to stand up for myself and say, excuse me, but I don't need you to speak to me that way or treat me that way. I'm a 43-year-old grown-ass woman, and I don't need you treating me like I'm a 5-year-old, which I would totally never say. But I didn't even have the ability to stand up for myself. I didn't have the ability to say, I don't really need your help right now. You could go ahead and, you could go and do something else. What was happening was one of the friends of the family had come over to help me pack. They weren't really there to help me pack. I was in charge of a certain area of the home, the whole upstairs, and they came over to help heavy lifting from downstairs. But instead of being downstairs doing the heavy lifting in the sunshine, in the heat, they decided to come upstairs in the air conditioning with music playing and hang out with me while I was doing the light packing. And then they began to boss me around and be rude to me and be unkind and say things to me that were very demeaning, and then guilt me for asking a question. They were intimidating me. They were behaving in a way that was very, very, very familiar to me. And I was so frozen in time, so thrown for a loop, so triggered, so not okay. I stuffed it. I intentionally stuffed it. I acknowledged that I was feeling traumatized, and ain't nobody got no time for this right now. I'm packing, I'm moving, I'm relocating. I got some stuff to do. I can't have a meltdown right now. I'm gonna put that on the shelf. I'm gonna deal with it. I can't deal with this right now. So I did. I shoved it aside. The next morning, I had a phone call from someone who was trying to scam me out of a lot of money. They were manipulating me. Again, if you notice the correlation and the connection here, I was professionally scammed and manipulated and traded for goods and services and abused and exploited as a child. And I was also treated very poorly and talked down to and manipulated and guilted and gaslit. All these things were very familiar for me, and they were very traumatizing. And in the midst of all of that, this little thing called life, where I'm relocating and moving, was happening. I was unable to cope. I made my very first phone call of the day that morning, and I had a complete meltdown. I just was in tears. I was bawling. I was weeping. And I couldn't deal. It was just too much. It wasn't just moving. It wasn't just someone trying to scam me out of a lot of money, manipulating me, trying to be exploitative and bullying me. It was all of it that morning, and then all of that happening also the day before, and me holding it all in and not acknowledging it and processing it and feeling it and accepting it and moving through it. I was trying to move around it or over it or under it, or just wanted it to disappear, and that's not the way life works. So I'm happy to say that, even though it sort of knocked me for a loop for about 24 to 48 hours, there was a time in my life in the beginning of my recovery, or even in the middle of my recovery journey, when that would have knocked me sideways for a week or two. In fact, I probably would have really struggled with normal things like brushing my teeth, eating, taking my vitamins, dressing myself, getting out of bed, cooking, normal daily functions, hygiene, work. Like, I still managed to handle all the rest of life, but I was very, very triggered, and I was not okay for a couple days and just sort of hobbled along. But I made it. And here I am exactly 1 week later, and I'm not still struggling. I'm not still hobbling. I'm not isolating. I'm not suicidal. I'm not self-harming. I'm not withholding calories. I'm not in eating disorder behavior. I'm not over exercising. I'm not doing all of those things. I'm not overeating. I'm not doing all the things that I have normally done to cope with those very strong, painful feelings of being exploited and bullied and abused. So, victory! I did it! Yay! And you can do it too, okay? not to sound like cheesy, like, hey, but like, if I can do it, you can do it better. And I know that that's true. So thanks for being here with me, you guys. Thanks for spending so much time. I can't believe all of you hung out. Wow. I have more people here now than I normally ever do at the end of a broadcast, and I ran long, so sorry about that. But I'm so happy that you guys hung out here. I'm thinking of setting up a Patreon and thinking of doing some you nows and sort of just sort of channeling my inner Katie Morton and just going for it. So let me know if that's something that you guys are interested in down in the comments below. If you have any other questions or if you have topic suggestions. Or if you guys are interested, like I said earlier, in the mental health mornings with like just going down by the beach and sort of hanging out for about a half an hour, let me know if that interests you. If it does, send an email to nomoreshameproject@gmail.com. And in the subject line, just put beach or ocean or mental health mornings or whatever. And I'll definitely see what kind of response I get, and maybe I'll do that also. So I'm really excited to be spending more time with you guys now that I'm moved, and I'm going to be sort of unpacking, and I'm moving again in 1 month. This is just a temporary spot. Cell block. I call this the cell block C. I'm going to be here for about a month, and then I'll be relocating to like a different place, and I'll be able to spend some more time with you guys. So I'm super duper excited for that, and I'm so thankful for each and every one of you and for all of your emails and your voice speak pipes that you leave me on my website. And for those of you I have not responded to yet, it's because I've been moving, and I'm so sorry, and I hope you'll forgive me because it's been like weeks since I've responded to you. And I'm so sorry, and I hope you'll just forgive me. I'm not making excuses. I just don't have the bandwidth right now. I'm doing the best I can. So thank you for being here. I'm Athena Moberg, and I love bringing you everything you need for healthy trauma-informed recovery. And I'll be back here next week, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on Monday. And for your time zone, go down into the description section, and I have like UK and Australia and all that down below. And hopefully I'll see you there, and invite somebody that you think feels all alone and like nobody understands, and someone who might be healing in adulthood from childhood abuse. Because man, it's a lonely road, right? But thank you so much, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.